Annotated Bibliography. The first time I wrote an annotated bibliography, I was in my second year of college as an undergrad, and it was by far the most daunting thing I had ever been asked to do in college. It wasn't until years later, when writing research papers, that I realized how useful it was. The way I do it now is very different from the instructions then, and if you continue writing research papers, I am sure you'll find your own way, but for this assignment, we will follow some straightforward directions that will help you when writing your literature review. The primary goal of this assignment is to teach you to paraphrase instead of copying or plagiarizing from your sources. The ultimate goal is synthesis and understanding, which promotes creativity and confidence in research. We have already looked at some initial thoughts, but the first assignment due is your initial thoughts on your research topic. The document posted guides you through the questions you should be answering, and at this moment, it is not important that you have all of the answers, only that you are asking questions and starting to look into it. You should consider where you can get data to answer your question and the feasibility of doing that. For instance, I wanted to monitor diabetes support groups on Facebook and went through all of the steps to get access, only to realize the data was impossible to get. It was easier to get data from Reddit or Twitter, but neither had the exact type of data I was looking for. So I had to amend my research question. Keep your options open at this point, but you will need to do background research first anyway. So that's why we are starting here. You should begin trying to get data right away, but I assume that will take some time, and gaining background knowledge is essential and can be done at any time. Once you have a basic research question, you will need to define the search terms from that to conduct the literature search. For example, my research question is, does participation in an online health community improve user health? My search terms are online health community and participation. You may have more than two search terms, but we will discuss later how this will work for your search. If you are familiar with a library search, then forgive me for the review, but performing this type of literature search is very stepwise, and I want to make sure you review every step. You can choose to use the university library or Google Scholar. Remember that this is not an internet search, and only the Scholar portion of Google should be used. First, you will navigate to one of these pages by searching for either Google Scholar or the JU Library. For my example, I am going to use the JU Library because I think it has more full-text articles available, and I think the process is simply more straightforward, which is valuable right now. From the JU Library, we page-click on Advanced Search and come to this page. For this search, I would change all of the search index terms to keyword and not title or author. And then type your terms in the boxes. You will have to work with these terms to get an appropriate number of articles, so don't get too set on them. If some of your terms have a synonym, you can type "or" between the terms in one box to use either term. You can also add rows for more than 3 terms. Don't click the top search box, but scroll down to see the search tools. Check the box for only peer-reviewed articles and limit the search years to the past 5 years. Then click Search. You can see at the top that I got 2,375 results. It is important that you write down what you do during your searches, the limiters, the terms, etc. You can see from the first 2 articles listed here that they have nothing to do with what I was looking for. So I will edit my search. Next time, I did not use the term participation and put quotes around the phrase online health communities to find more relevant articles. I continued to modify the terms and the search until I found articles that were relevant and between the number of 50 and 1,000. You should at least briefly review every article returned, so having a number that is manageable is important, but editing terms can lead you to lose track of what you have done, and for future researchers, in this case your professor, will need to replicate your search to make sure you have the steps of the search terms and conditions you settled before you begin the next step. Now, you will need to review all of the articles at least briefly. It is fairly tedious, but likely not as bad as you think. Set aside several hours to complete this. If you have been working on perfecting your search for some time, it may be good that you kept track of all the steps because you may need a break before you start this. You have the number of articles you collected, and now you will need to keep track of which articles you keep and which are irrelevant or unusable for another reason. Any articles you find that are relevant, I advise you to download and save. That is how I got all of these articles in this class's folder. Let us look at how to sort what you find. This is just an example of how you can look at and quickly sort the articles. If they aren't able to be used, it will take only a few seconds to determine that. If no full text is available, then it can be sorted out. If you feel the paper will really add to your study, then you can try to get the full text from the library. But generally, there are plenty of choices, so this isn't necessary. In my results, I had an article about dogs, so obviously that was off topic. Sometimes they will be a good article but appear in the results more than once after coming from more than one database. Count and save it the first time and list it otherwise. As a duplicate, I keep only articles in English, and since we are writing in English, it is probably advisable for your audience. If you can read another language and really want to use an article in that language, let me know and we can discuss it. When the whole list has been reviewed and you have saved the articles, the goal is for you to have found between 10 and 25, a good number for a literature review. If you have found more than 25, I encourage you to keep the most relevant of those 20 or to reduce it to 25. If it is less than that, you will need to begin your search again with modified search terms or settings. It is not really as time-consuming as it seems, I hope. I have a lot of practice with it, though, so if you are having difficulties, let me know. For the annotated bibliography, this is not important information, but it will tie in as you move forward, so it is important to look at for the moment. The articles you have chosen are by no means limiting you to only those articles in the final paper. You will likely need to support your position and process from other books and sources or articles using that process, and you will go outside of the original list. It gives you a place to start and would be most of what you would use for a comprehensive literature review. But this is a research paper, so you aren't limited. For instance, if you are using a specific type of analysis and none of these papers use that style, then you will need to find a source that does. Additionally, every field ranks journals, and some are ranked higher than others, meaning that they glean more respect. If you plan to publish more in the future, learning about the higher level journals may be important, but for this course, it is not necessary. For each article, write the APA citation and then write a short paragraph or 150 to 250 words summarizing what the articles found. Feel free to focus on what is pertinent about it to your study. These notes will be turned in for your assignment, but they really are only for you to use. As you read the articles, just write down what your thoughts about them are. Try to summarize the article in this space. This should be entirely in your own words. Don't copy any phrases or use any quotes. These notes are for you to look at later and remember each article, so feel free to write what will help you move forward with your study. It doesn't need to be the most perfect writing for this step. It's just an organized way to make notes, although it should be in full sentences. I am assuming that APA style is familiar to all of you, but if it is not, please find instructions online that will be more comprehensive than the brief example I am providing now. I spend a lot of time on this in my own research, so I can check them relatively quickly. With that said, I will be checking all of your references carefully. They are very important in published work. You will likely use journal articles almost exclusively, so there is an example citing a journal article given here for both the reference list and the in-text citations. In-text citations are not necessary for the annotated bibliography, but will be in other assignments. So, in only a maximum of 250 words, these are some of the points you can be looking for and adding to your summary. What is the main idea of the paper? What point are they trying to make? What methodology did they use? Who is the intended audience? What similarities or differences does it have to the other papers you have reviewed? Feel free to reference them, and then you may need the in-text citation. How does this paper relate to your topic? What are its strengths and weaknesses? What are the conclusions from the paper? You can answer any or all of these as they help you to relate the paper you are reading to the focus of your research. Your annotated bibliography should start with a paragraph detailing the steps you took in your search. You can use your research thoughts to provide a good opening and then describe your search specifically. Each of the annotations should be written completely in your own words. They are your notes on each article. Your annotated bibliography should contain 10 to 25 articles, each with its own summary of roughly 150 to 250 words. Your papers should be in Times New Roman 12-point font with 1-inch margins, the title, your name, and the introductory paragraph. A rubric is provided in the instructions as well. This assignment should help the paper get off to a good start and make the rest of the process go more smoothly.